Initially, I knew that I wanted to go back to grad school, so I started researching, and I ended up choosing the K-State program just for a variety of reasons. One, it was online, which made it very flexible for me to still have a full-time career, but it also provided the opportunity to come on campus and network and engage with my peers and with the faculty here as well. And also just wanted to stick with a university that had a strong reputation and especially had deep roots in agriculture.
Hello, this is Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. This is Philip Brasher, Executive Editor of Agri-Pulse. And with us this week is Rob Larew, President of the National Farmers Union. Rob, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Phil.
Wow, Rob, you were elected the first week in March. I can't imagine taking on the responsibilities at that time, but what a period it's been. What are you hearing from your members? How are they doing?
Well, it's a real, been a real kick in the pants. I mean, as folks well know, for a ton of our members, they were already coming off of, just really, really tough economic times. And then to be hit all of a sudden by all the disruption and other economic hits, I mean, it's just been devastating. We continue to hear reports of young farmers and even established farmers who just can't continue the losses that they're facing. And so we're really fearful of continuing to lose members. We're doing everything we can, obviously, to support them, to continue to push for farm stress, and then obviously all of the assistance with the pandemic relief, and then, with an eye toward how can we prevent some of these economic hits that we've seen in the future. So it's a tall order, and you're right, early March seems like a few years ago right now, but anyway, we're working hard. We're still able to do so virtually and make adjustments, and so like everyone, you just do what you have to do.
Well, one thing I know you're working on, and that's this next coronavirus relief package. Well, if there is one. Obviously, there's been no sign of progress this past week. The House and the Senate are now out, adjourned until September. The White House and the Democrats on Capitol Hill don't seem to be any closer than they were at the beginning of the month. The Democrats, of course, the House proposed $3.5 trillion in spending. Republicans in the Senate proposed $1 trillion. White House so far has refused to meet Democrats in the middle. What are the chances that we're going to get a deal in September? And how difficult do you think it's going to be to resolve the agriculture issues?
So any chance that I had of predicting or getting into this guessing game of is Congress going to act on something went out the window years ago, right? But I will say that at least with the early relief packages that Congress released, they were of the magnitude and really the speed, even though you want it even faster, but it was incredibly swift in many ways. And it wasn't always perfect, but you didn't need perfect in the beginning. You just needed some sort of assistance out there. And so it was encouraging to kind of see the House and the Senate come together as quickly as possible, and then cooperation with the White House. It's not surprising that this gap has taken place now, but I have to imagine that in September, with the election not far away, and more importantly, the pain continuing out there all across the economy, including farm country, that there will be some sort of package and agreement that comes together by the end of September. Now, it used to be that you would have some of these dates, the end of the fiscal year, the end of the calendar year, where it was that must pass. You can't pass this line. And then in the last several years, Congress has blown past all of those barriers. And yet, I think, particularly given earlier in the year when they finally came together provide relief out there. I think that you'll see, hopefully, that working together, if for no other reason than the fact that we will just be a couple months away from the election.
We also have to keep the government funded and avoid a government shutdown. So September 30th is the date to watch.
I would say that September is going to be a busy, frantic month up on Capitol Hill.
One thing we did get some news on this week, of course, was Joe Biden's selection of California Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate. It's been suggested by some that having a California progressive, though, won't help Biden in rural areas. And obviously, Democrats want to do better, need to do better in rural areas than Hillary Clinton did back in 2016. What can you tell us about Senator Harris?
Yeah, well, I'm no expert in Senator Harris, but just watching her relatively short career in the Senate and the positions that she's taken, she did support this very bipartisan farm bill most recently that passed the Senate, and she also has that experience of running out there for her own campaign. And I think, what was encouraging in that conversation is that the candidates tend to spend a lot of time in Iowa. They tend to spend a lot of time, in parts of the country that they may not otherwise represent, those early states. And so you saw what a rural plan looks like for her. She spent a lot of time down on farms. You've seen farmers in Iowa and elsewhere now speaking up. So I don't think it's safe to say that a California member has to be, viewed through one particular lens. She has certainly shown herself to have a very varied position, and obviously the presidential candidate himself is Joe Biden, and we know well what his kind of record is, and what his plans are for rural America. So it's an interesting choice. I think it's certainly, I think candidates on both sides of the aisle have often looked at California just because of the sheer population and the electoral count there. So I think it's a really a historic choice here. And I think for rural America, we're going to have some time here to get a better sense of how she fits in with this campaign. And obviously, with the focus on what Biden's vision is, I think rural residents will have a chance to really evaluate that fully.
Obviously, the reason that he made the announcement, Joe Biden made the announcement this week, is the Democratic National Convention starts on Monday. It's going to be very different than what we're used to, without the pageantry and the great stadium or arena. But there will be a convention. It will be dominating the airwaves. What do you want to hear from Democrats, from Vice President Biden, and the other speakers? What are the messages that you think rural America needs to hear from this convention?
Yeah, well, I think it's hard to go into next week's convention, or even looking ahead to the Republican convention without taking into account, right, all of the challenges that rural America is facing right now. And it's in the economy across the board, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's the continuing infrastructure challenges that we have with, what seems like an endless push to get broadband out there. And then the farm economy itself, and the fact that we really have just been struggling for so long here with trade wars, et cetera. So I think, for both conventions and both primary presidential candidates for each party, we're going to want to hearing what is their vision for change, what is their vision for prosperity for farmers and rural Americans out there. And so as we look next week, I certainly am encouraged by a lot of the plan and the policy positions that Biden has put down. We'll be listening, though, for perhaps a little bit more detail on what that means, and how does that vision roll into kind of his vision for the rest of the country. It'll be interesting to hear the range of speakers that they have. And again, how does that roll into the overall vision? And obviously, we'll be doing the same as we roll up on the next convention.
Republican convention, which starts the week after that.
Yeah.
Lastly, Rob, I can't let you get away without talking a little bit about your old boss on Capitol Hill, Collin Peterson, chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, whom you worked for years. Lastly, as the staff director on the committee. He obviously faces a very tough re-election race in a very, very deep red district in western Minnesota that you're very familiar with, the 7th District. President Trump carried the district by 30 points in 2016. This week, on Tuesday, Congressman Peterson found out who his challenger is, Michelle Fischbach, a former lieutenant governor of Minnesota, and there was an early poll. It's a Republican poll, take it for what it's worth, that has Ms. Fischbach up by 10 points. How do you think Congressman Peterson's going to do? What does he need to do to win that race? It is a very, very difficult district for any Democrat, even one of the most conservative ones in the Congress, to win.
Anybody who has ever counted Collin out throughout all of these years has been sorely wrong. So we have been here many, many times, and polls showing one side or the other. And at the end, the people of the 7th District, Northwestern Minnesota, look at this guy who has served as the chairman of the House Ag Committee, has led Farm Bill negotiations, has been the reason why we've been able to get farm bills actually out there, has continued to support communities. There are so many sections of his district that, in spite of other parts of the country having economic challenges, their businesses have been going on. Now, COVID has put a whole new spin on things, and there's new challenges. But Collin is somebody who has quite literally, worked the dikes and the flooding that they faced up there. So all of these weather-related disasters. Now we have this pandemic. He's been there. He's tested. And I don't know that with all the challenges that farmers and rural communities are facing right now, that they're going to be looking for change right now. They want a change but not necessarily a change in leadership, because they have somebody who knows how to get things done. So once again, I've certainly heard lots of people say, "Oh, it's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen, in this cycle." And so far, he's been batting 1,000. So I think that the district feels very comfortable with him, and so we'll be watching it very closely. But I think they're not necessarily looking for change.
It's been around since 1990. Of course, beat a Republican to win that seat in the first place. Thank you, Rob, for joining us this week. Appreciate your time. That was crazy, and we'll look forward to seeing what the Democratic Convention brings us this coming week, and the Republican Convention after that. It's going to be a very interesting fall, as you say, with September. All has to be done on the Hill, and then into the election in November. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you, Phil.